Well, hello here at the Darkness Haunted House, and we're gonna do another pinball review of this game right here, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Okay, now I'm gonna start this review and say the negatives first, the positives second, because why not end on a positive note? There are many positives and many negatives about this game, and we're going to discuss it, but I'm going to get me a water first. And I want to say that people have really responded to my pinball reviews, so appreciate that. It's been an interesting conversation. I will tell you that reviewing King Kong stirred up the most comments. And why is that? I can tell you why. Because there's a lot of people who are pinball players, and pinball players don't understand that what drives sales of pinball games is not the designer. It's not the designer. It's not the code. See, the design and the code is important for pinball players, people who compete in pinball tournaments, and I totally appreciate that. But what drives sales of pinballs is the theme, number one. Number two, the artwork. Number three, the assets. Like, you know, when the thing that a lot of people say isn't important because you're not looking at the screen when you play the game, I hate to tell you, it is important. It's important to the sales. Now, before we get into today's review of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, let's look right here. Here's a whole line of Texas Chainsaw Massacre masks. And while we're at it, we're going to walk around the gift store here, and I'm going to explain to some of the people who are Kool-Aid drinking Stern Army. I mean, I could say something mean, but I guess I'll just say people who don't have a clue what they're talking about. Is that too mean? Or, I don't know. You tell me. Is that too mean? So, the theme matters. Now, Spooky did this. And I'm going to say, because I did say at the time, it's not a very good pinball game. The artwork is not very good. The layout's not very good. Okay? I don't really care to get into the code or anything else. It was not a fun game to play, and the artwork was not good. The theming under the glass, I would not say was very good. But do you know what happened with that game? It sold out. It sold out for the amount of games they said they were going to make, which I know was like 1,000 maybe, or a little over. Despite the fact the artwork wasn't very good, despite the fact the layout was, I mean, you might have more fun pushing a wheelbarrow full of concrete mix up a steep incline than play that game, because that game is just not fun. Okay, but it's still sold because of the theme. The theme is the only thing that matters. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to review Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and we're also going to talk about themes that could be good pinball games, not only for Spooky, but also for Stern. And you know what I would say to Spooky is, don't try to fix what's not broken. You keep doing horror themes, they keep selling out, they keep you at a capacity where you have to make games for an entire year. I say stay with the horror. And if it's true that you have Beetlejuice, you hit a home run. And for the people who literally are the Kool-Aid drinking people that don't know what they're talking about, I'm going to explain something to you. When you go into a spirits, and I literally said this, just FYI, to Stern, why did you do Monsters? Why? You go into a spirits, you don't see anything from Monsters in there for sale. However, if it's true, you had your choice. You gave the designer the choice of doing Monsters or Beetlejuice, and he picked Monsters. Maybe, Stern, you should stop listening to your designers. Beetlejuice 2 just came out. In the United States alone, it grossed, I don't know, 250 million or something crazy. You go into a Spirits, you go into a Walmart, a Target, it doesn't matter. Beetlejuice all over the place. For sale. We're talking about it's licensed everywhere. Monsters came out with a movie made by Rob Zombie, and it was so bad that it got sold off to Netflix, and it literally has like a 4 rating. And prior to that, nobody's even attempted to do anything with the Monsters in decades. But Beetlejuice, by the way, the name of the movie is Beetlejuice, which makes you believe there's going to be Beetlejuice, because, you know, you say his name 3 times. Kind of like Candyman. But Beetlejuice is a great theme. And if Spooky has Beetlejuice with Christopher Franchi doing the artwork, well, I'm really excited. That is a game I will want, okay? Because Beetlejuice is iconic. The Monsters, not iconic. Now, Stern, you got away with having Monsters instead of doing Beetlejuice because the games are cheaper and people were buying them, okay? Now, people are not buying them, and guess what else? The games cost a ton more. And so now more than ever, you can't be picking bad themes. You can't be picking the Monsters when you could have gotten Beetlejuice. Right now, themes matter in pinball because the sales are way down. Okay, and so I'm going to argue that the only thing Stern should be focused on is, do we have a good theme? Now let's look around this gift store and let's see what all would be a good theme. Do you know what that is right there? That's from Goonies. Too bad your competitor is going to come out with a really badass Goonies game, and that's going to be a big seller. Now, do you know what this is? Now, I would say to you, Spooky, if you could get this theme right here, and I want to say this, and I want to make this like extremely clear. I am not trying to tell people to do themes that I want. I'm trying to tell people to do themes I think will sell. So when I say, first off, I would want a Caddyshack pinball. However, the reason why I said Caddyshack is because everybody that has a basement that has games has a Golden Tee, because it's the #1 participant sport in America, and the #1 golf movie of all time is Caddyshack. Now, somebody said Caddyshack isn't a good movie or isn't popular. What are you talking about? On top 100 comedies of all time, it's rated 4th. Big Lebowski's rated 18th. And we know how good Big Lebowski sold. So that, and by the way, the difference is bowling's popular, but not as popular as golf, okay? So basically, in my opinion, if you're trying to get something to break out of the pinball community, there's a really good theme just sitting there waiting for you, and that's called anything that's collectible or anything that is cult status. Caddyshack is cult status. I actually believe that you could get Bill Murray to do call-outs because he owns a Caddyshack restaurant. His brother was one of the writers. That's why he did the movie, okay? I think Caddyshack would sell thousands of units because anybody who likes golf would buy it, regardless if they like pinball or not. Now, I will say that a lot of these Halloween games that Spooky made ended up in horror collectors' horror collection room. And there's many, and you can go to YouTube and you'll see them all over the place. Horror is probably one of the biggest. It's probably one of the top two where people collect everything they see, okay? There's horror shows all over the place. The collectibles are everywhere. And then when you think about Halloween and you think how big Halloween is, well, that's a big part of horror. So Halloween is a big retail industry. And, you know, when you get the... Now, that would have been a great theme for Stern, but they passed on it, and they haven't done horror. I don't consider Monsters horror, but it kind of is, I guess, a little. And correct me if I'm wrong, they haven't done horror since Walking Dead. But I want to say that I hate these movies. I detest them. I don't watch them. I think they're silly. I think they're cliche. But this is what I know for a fact. This would be the biggest license anybody could get for a pinball. I go to horror shows, and these actors are signing autographs. You have Freddy Krueger there signing autographs. You have all kinds of other people, big people signing autographs. The longest line are for Scream. It's for Scream. And they keep making these movies, and they keep doing 100 million every single time. There's so many fans of Scream, and the movies, you know, hit every target demo. And if you could get Scream, I would say that would be the biggest horror title you could get. Now, in my opinion, the best horror movie of all time is The Exorcist. I don't know that that would make a great pinball or not. I don't know how that would go over, but this would be... Now, Stern, you should license this. You should license this. Whoever licensed Scream is going to sell thousands of copies because there's that many people in the horror community that would buy that. Now, here's another one that I think would sell very well, and that would be Pennywise. He's very collectible, very popular, but you know what's more popular is this Saw franchise. And I don't know why. I'm not a big fan of Saw, but I'm telling you, if I had my pick out of the two, I would get the Saw. The Saw would be almost as good as Scream. They've made like 500 of these for a reason, because people love Saw. They collect things from Saw. They like things from Saw. They like to make their own gadgets from Saw. It's very popular. Pennywise is popular. Scream is popular. I absolutely think a new Nightmare on Elm Street would be popular. Nobody's done Friday the 13th. That would be popular. I also think another popular theme would be the Universal Studios Monsters, just like they just did at Epic. And I'm not talking about Monster Bash. I'm talking about where you had the assets from all the original Universal Studio Monsters. I think that would be huge. Now, I'll tell you another movie that's super popular, because we're talking about masks here. Look at this. Jeepers Creepers is one of the biggest sellers. Now, let me tell you what the #1 seller was last year. Well, besides Scream, Scream's always #1, is Terrifier. Terrifier was huge. I don't know that it would be a good idea to do a pinball game on Terrifier. It's a little too disgusting. But you know what else is really popular? I don't know why, because I hate it, is Chucky. Chucky is super popular. Super popular. Okay? As is Universal Studios Horror Monsters as a collection. Friday the 13th is popular. Okay? I absolutely think that would be a great pinball game. Now, when you're talking about Annabelle, you're talking about like the whole Conjuring universe. That would make a great pinball as well. And they have literally licensed these things for just about everything. Right? See, here's a little Saw plushie, a Nun plushie. But the big one, I think, was Halloween. It was already done. I don't think anybody would care about Candyman. But I do think people would buy Saw. And there's Predator. Only if it's based on Predator 1. Now, here's something else that would be really popular, aside from Beetlejuice, would be Vacation. See this? If somebody could license Vacation, and you did Vacation, Christmas Vacation, European Vacation, Vegas Vacation, and that was all the modes, you'd have a huge hit on your hands. Now, if you're a boutique and you do Christmas Story, I absolutely think you could sell 500 of these. Okay? I think you could sell 500 of Elf if you're a boutique. But I think Stern could absolutely license Christmas Vacation in general. I think that would be an absolute hit for them. This would be a hit. Gremlins. And by the way, they're coming out with a brand new Gremlins movie. It's in production right now. I think if Stern was going to remake a game, they should remake Ghostbusters. I think it would be a huge hit. But what about this? Nightmare Before Christmas. That is a game that screams spooky. I'm just saying, that's a game that screams spooky. Another game that I think that would be a great license is to relicense Addams Family and base it on the movies, just like the original game was, but this time you have all the movie clips and everything else. And so as we look at these walls, I can tell you Beetlejuice would be a top 5 theme, especially if we're in the horror world. I absolutely think even Stern could license Friday the 13th. I think a Friday the 13th game would sell more copies than they will sell of King Kong. He's more popular, and this is what Stern doesn't understand. That Spooky just essentially sold 1,000 copies of Evil Dead. Okay? Evil Dead is not, I would argue, not in the top 10 horror franchises, and they sold 1,000 of them. So imagine if you got Scream. Imagine if you got Friday the 13th, or Freddy Krueger, or Nightmare on Elm Street, or Beetlejuice. These will all be much bigger. Now, I'll tell you a movie that I would love to see Spooky do a pinball game on is this movie, Trick or Treat. That is something, if I was Spooky, I would license, and they're making a sequel to it. Another game that probably would blow everybody's mind is if Spooky did Chucky or Friday the 13th. If I'm Spooky, I just keep going. Just keep making the horror themes. It's working for you. You're building a reputation. Sorry, I got the hiccups. In the horror community. And if I was Spooky, I can tell you this. If you really did license the Howling, please don't make that pinball game. Nobody cares about Howling, and that would be a disaster. But what you could license is Trick or Treat movie, Saw, Scream, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Chucky. If you did any of those, you would have a massive hit on your hands, not to mention Pennywise or Beetlejuice. I also believe that Stern could get back in the horror business, reintroduce themselves to the whole entire horror community. And let me just say this to you, Stern. You made Stranger Things. I really don't consider that horror, but you did make Walking Dead. But listen, Stern, you keep making goofy Marvel titles, and they're not selling. But you know who buys collectibles? Horror community. Horror. And you should run out as fast as you can and license Scream, license Nightmare on Elm Street, license Friday the 13th, license Chucky. Any of those titles is going to bring you a lot of sales and new buyers. It's too late on Back to the Future. It's too late on Goonies, but maybe you could get Gremlins. And by the way, for those people who don't know, they're making a new Goonies movie. Another reason why Stern should have licensed the Goonies. Now, let's start with our review of, and by the way, another movie that I would do if I was Stern, I would license not this movie, but the Jack Nicholson Batman 1989. Or I would license Superman. I think that would be really cool. Superman or Batman 1989. Now, let's talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I want to show you something. Now, I have a light because this game is so dark. Look at the game. You can't even see the game in the middle because it's so dark. See, as we come over here, it's almost like it's not even on. Creature in Black Lagoon's really bright. Monster Bash is really bright. But Texas Chainsaw Massacre is very dark. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to tell you a couple things I do not like about this game. Number one, I don't like how everything is red. Look, even the lights in the back box are red. The lights there are red. That's red. The back glass is kind of red. And then you powder coated the ramps, the rails, everything red. It's too red. And then look at the side art. It's all red. Everything is red. It's just overboard on the powder coating. Now look, if we come over here to Monster Bash, you see how the rails are just the regular color and the ramp is the regular color? Hey, I think in some cases, like on Batman 66, where they might have done them in like a really metallic looking purple, it might make sense. But in most cases, Spooky, I would just keep the rails in this color, the chrome color, okay? Because this is just way too red. And I give you credit, you made the flipper bats, you put the rubbers on it, but then again, you made them red. And look at all the LEDs. I know they, just as I'm talking about it, switched to a different color, but mainly they're red. This game needs a serious code update. So these lights back here go from red to white. This game needs like a light like we would see on a normal game where you have like a light bar. This game needs more light. You can't see anything. And I do think that Spooky, you go a little too far with powder coating the rails. And I really hated it on Scooby-Doo where you powder coated each one a different color. It's just confusing. But look how red the game is. Now, let me go into another thing I really don't like. Okay, now this is just theming thing because this is what I do. Okay, and I can tell you that I've had some pinball companies, I'm not going to say who they were, ask me for theming ideas and whatnot. But, you know, I will tell you what would have been cool is if you would have done old fashioned, like, you know, Terminator, right? Where you have a handle here. And it would have been cool if it was a chainsaw handle and you pull in like this. And then instead of powder coating this red, you could have made this the chainsaw, which you did here. But this could have been part of the handle. And that would have been really cool. Then I would have done this more of a rusty color and not this burgundy red. I know that you're thinking blood, but look, it doesn't work. The powder coating doesn't work. And I think the whole thing is just way too red, okay? So that's a complaint that I have, okay? I think the game needs a code update to try to like take some of this red LED out and maybe do more white to brighten it up. You can't see to play the game from about here back. The game desperately needs a light in it shining back there so you can actually see the back of the game. The other thing that I'm going to say, Spooky, and I hate to say this, but I think it's true. When in the future, when you make these games, I think you should sell the games only with the Invisiglass because the glare is so horrible. It really makes it hard to play the game. Okay, so these are the negatives. These are the negatives. Now with the positives. Okay, the game's fun. It's a nice creative layout. I really like your meat grinder mechanism over here. Now this is kind of ripped off a little bit from that guy on Pinside that was selling those Elviras, but I still like it when the ball rolls through. You know, a girl comes out of the freezer. I like it. It's really cool. And you know, and then you've got the leather face back here that twirls around. He's doing the chainsaw dance. That's kind of cool. The person who did this game, okay, understands the source material. And this is just, in my opinion, what is not, you know, understood with some of the pinball games that are being made. And I think this was Spooky's best game until Evil Dead came out. Now, I will say too, Spooky, just saying, like, I really dislike this side blade art. I really think it's not good. I think the side blade art should have been like in a like if you're, let's say if the play field is the house, you could have made it like a freezer, like different sections of the house. I would have rather seen the house, okay, and then maybe on the other side you see the outside of the house, and then the inside on the other one, rather than all these cow skulls. I think that would have been better, but the artwork is really good. I like the fact that you have all the assets. I like the fact that Spooky is covering their speaker back box here with a sticker of some kind, something Stern's not doing. I really like how you have the speakers covered with this Texas, showing the state of Texas. And of course their games come with a topper. Very nice. The artwork is good. The play field is good. The mechs, understanding the source material is all good. And then here is like where, you know, where Leatherface comes out of the locker, which, you know, where the girl was hanging. Very good. They understand the source material. And so if I was a haunted house, which I am, I have a haunted house, and we can get a little shot of the artwork over here. Sorry, I sneezed. I will say my favorite Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie is Part 2. And I really liked what you did with Evil Dead because you incorporated Part 1 and Part 2. I thought that if you were asking me which one's better, Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or Evil Dead, it's Evil Dead 100%. But it's like you did such a good job and you learned so much, I think, from doing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it rolled over into Evil Dead, really. Because you really showed that you totally understand why fans like the movie Evil Dead. And I think in this game, you did a really good job of showing people that if you like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you're gonna love the game. So my complaints are, I think, very valid. The game is very dark. You powder coated too much, and I think you picked the wrong color on the exterior and the interior of the powder coat, the burgundy red. I don't think that's the color you should have went with. And I don't think you should powder coat everything inside the game. It just makes the game look a little too, it's hard to pick a word, but it just doesn't look coherent, okay? And so my complaints are minimal. If I were comparing Texas Chainsaw Massacre to Halloween, I would say it's like you took a light year. You know, you got the Millennium Falcon and you went into light speed. It's a great game. It's absolutely fun. It has all the assets. The artwork is good. And some of the things that I don't like about the game are things that probably could be fixed. Like, I'm sure somebody's selling different side blade art. I don't like that. And I also think you probably could get, you know, lighting, Pin Stadium or something to add to the game. But this game desperately needs Pin Stadium. It definitely needs Invisiglass, and I just think in the future, Spooky, you should just raise the price and include Invisiglass on all your games. But you know what I really love about Spooky is with their last two games, they're showing you they understand the source material very well. They have the assets. They've got the best pinball artist in the world doing their art, and I think that really helps. And you can see the jump they've made from the games they made prior to Texas Chainsaw Massacre to this one. So, like, for example, Scooby-Doo, I like the artwork on it, but like the upper playfield was kind of silly, and it covered like almost every entry to every shot, and I just thought you can't even see what you're shooting at. And so it was like, once again, you know, like Spooky's still trying to get there. But then when you see this Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you're like, yeah, they're really getting there quick. And this is what should really concern companies like Stern and Jersey Jack, who were always considered 1 and 2. I can realistically see if Spooky, because I really do believe that they take the feedback from their customers to heart. And I think like when you see their next game after Evil Dead, you'll probably see that it's brighter. You can see the game better. Probably going to insist you buy upgrade to Invisiglass. I think Spooky ought to just add it because you're already selling the games cheaper than Stern and Jersey Jack. So you've got a little room to move there just to add the Invisiglass. It's going to make the experience better for the customer. So I would suggest you get the game. The only other complaint I would say about Texas Chainsaw Massacre is I really wish it would have included Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. To me, the best character